There was an age when China ruled the seas, while Europeans were still living in the Dark Ages. The Chinese were exploring the world with massive fleets that dwarfed anything the West would produce for centuries. Leading these armadas was one of history's greatest naval heroes, Admiral Zheng He. But who was Zheng He? What did he accomplish? And why has he been forgotten? You're about to find out. This is the story of Zheng He, the man who circumnavigated Africa centuries before Vasco da Gama. Born in 1371, Zheng He wasn't born into privilege. In fact, he was an ordinary Chinese peasant, living a normal life in a village with his family. That all changed when the imperial eunuchs came to his village looking for healthy young men to serve in the palace. As the son of a wealthy merchant, Zheng He was considered a good candidate for the program. But being an intelligent young man, he decided to volunteer himself instead of waiting for the imperial conscription. And so, at the age of 20, he left home to serve the new Emperor Yongle of the Ming Dynasty. In the beginning, Zheng He trained with other selected youths in a special unit camp where they underwent military training. This wasn't exactly what Zheng He wanted, but he soon caught the eye of the emperor. His natural leadership skills and intelligence allowed him to quickly rise through the ranks. When Yongle needed a skilled diplomat and military leader for his upcoming campaign against the Mongols, he chose Zheng He for the job. During the war, Zheng He proved instrumental in securing several victories for the Chinese army. But it was during the siege of a rebel general that he really impressed the emperor. The Chinese army had surrounded the rebel general, but he kept escaping by sea. The emperor ordered Zheng He to capture him no matter the cost. So he built a fleet composed of over 200 large ships, which sailed down the Yellow River to intercept the rebel. It was the first time the Chinese used a navy to fight a war, and it didn't take long for Zheng He to prove its potential. He intercepted the rebels' escape and forced them to surrender, bringing him back to the emperor. Impressed by this feat, the emperor rewarded Zheng He with the title of Jin Yue, an elite military rank, and from then on, he became Yongle's right-hand man. But there was a problem. As the Ming Dynasty expanded, Yongle realized the empire's growing need for resources like gold, silver, and spices. To get them, he sent envoys to Southeast Asia, only for them to return with disappointing news. The kingdoms in the region weren't interested in trading with the Chinese. Not only that, they also despised the way the Chinese conducted diplomacy. Now, Yongle wanted the riches of the Orient, not war with the Muslims there. So he turned to Zheng He, his most trusted Muslim advisor, to solve the problem. His solution was simple: go get them. In 1405, Emperor Yongle gave Zheng He command of the largest fleet in history, and tasked him to go to the Orient to spread Chinese influence and secure their trade routes. With that, Zheng He set sail for the Orient. Over the next 3 decades, he led 6 more voyages there, totaling 7 great expeditions. Now, Zheng He didn't have a map drawn in front of him when he sailed. In fact, we don't even know exactly where he went. All we know are the places he visited according to Chinese records, though modern historians argue these accounts are accurate or exaggerated. According to them, Zheng He's fleet first arrived in modern-day Vietnam. From there, he continued south to the Malay Peninsula, then east to Indonesia and India. On his 3rd voyage, he reached Arabia. There, he was received by the Sultan of Mecca and given an audience with the Caliph. He then sailed further east to East Africa, where he collected exotic goods and spices. He brought back elephants, giraffes, and zebras, among many other animals. Then he returned to China, where the emperor received him and his fleet with open arms. These voyages lasted between 2 and 7 years each and covered tens of thousands of miles. They were the greatest feats of maritime exploration since ancient Greece and Rome. The treasure fleets were composed of hundreds of vessels, including large treasure ships, troop transports, supply ships, and warships. The treasure ships measured around 400 feet in length and displaced 2,000 tons, making them twice the size of Columbus's flagship, the Santa Maria. They were equipped with multiple masts and carried 12 to 16 guns, depending on the model. In total, Zheng He's fleets had a crew of around 27,000 men, making it the largest navy in the world at the time. Every nation he visited marveled at the sight of the treasure fleet arriving at their shores. Some even believed it was the legendary fleet of the sun god returning to Earth. Though Zheng He was a Muslim, he served the Chinese emperor with loyalty and devotion. Throughout his voyages, he brought back many Muslims from the Orient to serve the Ming emperors. Zheng He didn't use his fleet to conquer or pillage. His goal was to bring back riches and exotic goods for the Chinese markets. Whenever he anchored at a foreign port, local rulers would come to pay tribute to the Chinese emperor. Of course, some rulers refused to do so and started attacking his ships. So he fought back. One time in Sumatra, Zheng He punished a local chieftain who attacked his fleet by seizing his fortune and executing his warriors. He also destroyed pirate strongholds in the South China Sea and executed corrupt officials who tried to smuggle goods out of China. By all accounts, Zheng He was a successful explorer and diplomat. His voyages brought fame and glory to the Ming Dynasty and made Yongle the envy of the rest of the world. But why did the voyages end? Well, after Emperor Yongle died in 1424, his successor Hongxi canceled Zheng He's 8th voyage and recalled the fleet to China. Hongxi didn't believe in projecting power overseas and wanted to focus on strengthening China's defenses along the Mongolian border. Soon after, Zheng He's fleet was dismantled and the emperor demoted him to a minor official. But Zheng He remained loyal to the throne until his death in 1433. Why did China stop exploring the world? Well, the voyages were expensive. They cost millions of dollars in today's money. And the Ming emperors believed they weren't worth the cost. With no apparent benefit, China basically turned inwards, adopting a policy known as the serf system, in which it closed its borders to foreigners and banned Chinese from leaving the country. By doing so, China missed out on the riches of the New World and the chance to become a global power. But that's a story for another video. For now, let's talk about how Zheng He has been forgotten. After the voyages ended, China lost interest in exploring the world. As a result, most of the Chinese accounts of Zheng He's voyages were lost or destroyed. And the ones that survived didn't reach Western audiences until centuries later. That's because European explorers like Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama overshadowed Zheng He and his accomplishments. Even though Columbus reached the Americas 5 years after Zheng He died, he got all the credit for discovering the New World. Meanwhile, Zheng He became a footnote in history books. However, in recent times, Zheng He has been getting his flowers. Many monuments and statues have been erected in his honor. And today he is seen as a hero in China. So who was Zheng He? Well, he was a eunuch, Muslim, admiral, diplomat, and hero. He was a gifted military leader, a skilled navigator, and a master of diplomacy. Above all else, he was a pioneer of global trade and cultural exchange. Zheng He showed the world that China was a great maritime power and that its influence extended far beyond its borders. He also demonstrated the importance of trade and diplomacy in building wealth and power. His legacy lives on today in the bustling ports of Shanghai and Shenzhen, in the thriving Chinese economy, and in the hearts and minds of the Chinese people. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.